Alright, so hello everyone. Today we're going to be working on Gaston's Tavern. In the last video for Beauty and the Beast, we did the outside of the castle over here, and I had used flour in my paint, and I loved the texture that gave me, so that's what I'm going to use on the walls in here. We definitely want to get this stuff covered up on the wall because that looks terrible. Now let's look at some pictures here of how this wall is going to look. We've got, I guess you call this wainscoting and chair rail. It's pretty low. It's not very high up, it don't look like. But that's what we're going to do. It looks really low in this picture. I'm not going to do it quite that low, but we're going to do that around the bottom. And then, of course, we're going to do the white parts here. That's where I'm going to do my flower texture. And then, of course, some boards. So pretty much what you're seeing here is what we're going to try to get today. And I'm noticing there's some boards on the ceiling. So I got to do that up here. And then, of course, just regular floorboard floors. Now, I do have one more little taxidermy that I've made. That is this little goat. And this is going to be one of those little Easter eggs, like a little Disney Easter egg. Things that certain people will know. This is actually a Disney character, and he got his poor little head chopped off just so he could go on Gaston's wall. But this was a little figurine of a goat. He is the goat from the Hunchback movie. He is Esmeralda is the girl, but I can't think of what the goat's name is. But I did give him an earring, as you can see. That's just like a little jump ring for a necklace. But he turned out pretty cute, so he will be added to the display later. So I'll put him to the side before I lose him. But let's get started on the walls. I think that's where I want to start today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the little wainscoting first, and I'm just going to measure up my wall about where I want that to be. Now let me see which one of these pictures. I think it kind of goes, in most of the pictures, it looks like it's just about as tall as what this little arch is in the fireplace. So I'm going to go, let's see, I don't know. And I need to get it over here on inches because I am an American and I go by inches. I don't know what these little centimeters are over there. They kind of freak me out. So let's see, and I'm gonna go like 2 inches up on the wall. I think that will be good, and it might be a little bit low, but I think that will help make this part of the wall look higher than what it is. So we're gonna go about 2 inches. I'm just gonna make some marks across there. Actually, there's already a line on the wall because this foam board actually has some little squares. I don't know if that's picking up on the camera, but I can actually see that line. So I'm going to go around here and make a line to where I'll know how high to do that wainscoting. All right, so I got that done, and just making that line, I already think it looks good. And again, let's look at the picture for the boards on the wall and the floor and the ceiling. I'm just going to cut out pieces of my cereal box to make the boards. And so I'm just going to sit here and cut out a bunch of strips from my cereal box. It's kind of what I always use when I do floors and stuff. So let me grab that. All right, so I've got a poster board. I've decided to do poster board just because I have so much of it, but I also have a lot of cereal boxes. But I have this little paper cutter, and I have discovered that it cuts things and that it works really good, and it has been sitting here for like 2 years, and I'm just now learning to use it. So this is kind of making my job a lot easier. Look at that. Now I have got it going on. I feel like a professional now. Look at those beautiful little strips of paper. So I am going to just cut them as high as they need to be to go around that wall. I'm going to go ahead and throw them on the floor. Well, no, there's something I got to do before I can do the floor, but I'm going to go ahead and flip this thing upside down and do the ceiling and this little part around the wall. And then I got something I need to do before I can do the floorboards. That's really important. All right, so here's how the ceiling looks. So I'm going to flip it back over and I'm going to do the same to the floor later. And I also have to show you how I came up with the perfect angle, because sometimes it can be hard to come up with the angle when you're cutting your board to go right up in the corner like this. So I've found the perfect little solution for that. But let me flip it around. I'm trying to debate if I should paint this first before I do the wall, but I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and do the wood at the bottom before I do any painting at all, so that I can make sure it all, matches and looks the same. So what I want to do before I do the floor is, this is a wooden cutting board that I have been using in a lot of my work that I do, but I was wanting a board to sit this on permanently, and I'm not going to glue it, but I'm just going to put some screws through the foam board here. And I'm not, well, actually I think I will glue it. I'm going to glue it, but then I'm going to put a screw here and a screw here just to hold it down really good. But I want to do that before I put these floorboards down, so that that will hide the screw head. So I'm going to do that real quick and then do the floorboards. All right, so here's how the floor looks. I put wood glue on the bottom, so it's glued, and then it's got these 4 screws. I've put them out here and then 2 in the middle, and that's just because I noticed that this foam board was wanting to just warp a little tiny bit, so I just wanted to screw it down to something where it won't do that, and also it looks a little bit nicer on a wood base. Now, to get this angle, you're gonna, of course, need to, it's really hard to tell. I don't know if it drowns it out worse moving the light. It's really hard to tell what I'm really doing. But, this is a flat board, and you need it to go into a point here, because there's a board already there. Let me see if I can zoom it in, maybe. I think that kind of shows up better. But, all right, so I've got it kind of laid just right beside where I want the next one to go. And I'm going to lay my ruler flat against that wall. And let me try to focus it. And then we're going to draw a line. And then we're going to cut it. And then that board will go right in there, just like that. So it's a perfect fit. And then you just got to draw your mark here. And then I'm going to snip that off. And then it should lay perfect in there where I want it. And then I can do the same thing, but with that little piece I cut off, I could actually lay it on my next board, trace it, and use that as a pattern. Or I can just continue doing this method here, where you just lay it down and then trace the line. So either way, but I usually just take that little piece I cut off and do it that way. It's a little bit easier than having to lay that ruler down every time. So there's that. And then I'll just continue to glue these, and then see how that went right over that head of that screw. I made sure that screw went down in the foam board just enough to not, make the board hump up there. So I've got the floor done, and the wall, and the ceiling. And I'm going to mix up my little concoction of like Mod Podge and flour. And I'm going to paint that on the wall. And I may go ahead and mix the paint color that I want in that, because it'll just kind of be all 3 steps done at once, instead of doing the flour and Mod Podge and then painting over that. I guess it would be easier to just go ahead and throw the color in there that I want it to be. So I'm going to do that just off camera. And then we'll paint the boards. I kind of want to make sure the paint or the glue under the boards dry good, because I've learned from other projects that you just want these to dry completely before you paint them, or else they can warp. And this little cutout that I did back here, that is completely unnecessary. I'm not sure why I made that in the wall back there. That needed to be a solid wall, and now I'm kind of regretting that. I guess I was thinking that the fireplace would be back in there, but really the fireplace is going to be built out on the floor out here. So anyway, I can just kind of patch that up later. But so I'm going to do the wall real quick. Well, I'm going to show kind of what I'm mixing up here. This is some paint. It ain't as light as I want it, so I put some white paint in there, and I'm going to put a little bit of what is it, Mod Podge in here. And I'm not really measuring, I'm just kind of mixing it to where it looks like it might be enough. I can sort of see through the cup here, the light shining in it. It's about up to here. But anyway, I'm just kind of mixing up what I think I will need. And then I'm going to put some of this flour in here. And this is just going to give it that texture that I want. I want to be careful and not get too much of that in there. And then we're going to stir it up. If I think it needs any more, I can put more in it. I'm not in love with that color. It's just a little bit darker than I wanted it to be. But if I just hate it, I can put more white in it. And then if I still don't like it when it dries, then I can just go back over it with the color that I want it to be. But I'm not going to waste too much of my paint here. So let me just mix this up. And that's a pretty good consistency there, it looks like, I guess. I might put a little bit more flour in it. I want it pretty textury. The flour makes it, oh gosh, ooh. The flour makes it kind of stretchy, like slime or something. Okay, that's pretty good. It's almost like a milkshake, or a little runnier than a milkshake. It's pretty runny because it's not dripping off that stick, but that looks like it's pretty good. So you're just going to mix it to where you like it. And then that's what I'm going to paint on the wall. And I'm actually going to try this giant paintbrush, which I'm not sure if that's a good idea. I'm going to smear a little bit on here, and then you can just sort of see how easy and how good. It's kind of thick, so I love that it's not running down the wall, and it covers pretty easy. And it I guess it's good that it's more thicker and not too wet, because I'm afraid the walls will warp with it being the foam board. So hopefully it won't warp, but I'm going to get it done and maybe blow dry it a little bit just to help get it dry quick so it don't warp. But it is going on good. It looks amazing. I absolutely love it. Okay, so I think that looks pretty darn cute myself. It doesn't seem to be warping the walls. I did not try to hair dry that. Hair dry? Did I say hair dry? Yeah, I guess that's what I meant to say. So anyways, here is a picture. You can sort of see the wall back there in the picture. And it's actually kind of the same color as what I went with, so I kind of am loving it. But we're going to let that dry overnight. It's after 11 o'clock, and I am usually in bed by now. So I'm going to call it quits for right now, and then I'll pick back up in the morning. All right, so it's the next day. The walls are dry. They look amazing. So we're going to start painting the ceiling and the floor. And I do see just a couple of tiny little spots like right here, which is probably not noticeable on camera, but I can sort of see that white peeking through. So I'm going to take some of that same paint, hopefully get it mixed the same color, and just kind of touch up some spots that I'm seeing. But then I'm also going to get this painted, and I'm going to use this little chestnut brown, because it's got like a little orange hue to it. And if you look at these pictures, it almost looks like it's got a little orangey hue, and that looks like that would be a pretty good color to use for that. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I think I'm going to try to get the fireplace built today. Alright, so I got that painted, and for the hole in the back there, I'm going to run this piece of foam board in here. which I've already done this, but I'm going to hold it back there and trace that pattern, that little half circle, and then I can just cut that and glue it in place and fill that hole up. Because again, that should have been the back of my fireplace, so I don't need a hole going all the way through there like that. So I'm going to fill that in, and I do need just a tiny, tiny little hole to run the lights through it for the fire. So I'll do that and get that to going before we start. All right, so I've got this little fireplace front cut out. It goes all the way from the floor to the ceiling in the shape that I want it. And I decided to go with cardboard because I've got something against the foam board now that I'll tell later. But anyway, I've cut this fireplace front out. I need to cut out the little opening here. And then for the side, I'm going to run some cardboard up the side here to create the side, just like that. And when you're cutting and using your cardboard, you need it to kind of curve a little bit. So to help it curve, I just kind of hold it like this and run it down the edge of my table, or in this case, I've got my cutting board. But I kind of do that and I go both directions. And then it just kind of makes it a little more floppy and formable or moldable or whatever. I don't know what word I'm looking for, but then I can just easily glue that down and it'll kind of curve with the shape a lot easier than this piece that I've not done that to, because then it's just going to bend weird and it just goes on a lot smoother once you've made it a little more limber. All right, so here is my little fireplace. I mean, you can sort of see how I've done that just out of the cardboard. I almost forgot, but I had to put these little inside pieces in there so that you don't see back in through there. But there's the fireplace, and I test fitted this to make sure that it would fit, and it does. I'm not going to push it all the way back in there yet, but I'm going to do this same paint technique here. I'm just going to mix up flour and Mod Podge, and I'm going to paint this with that and then paint it gray with the gray color. So I'm going to run outside and actually do it outside. So we'll get that done, and then we'll I'm trying to decide how I'm going to do the rocks. I think I'm going to do the egg carton trick with that. I've never done that. A lot of people recommended that in my Hocus Pocus video, so I'm going to try that out. But I'm going to do it kind of weird and different from how other people do it, just because I'm weird and different. So I'm back to my original little setup here. I was kind of missing my little pictures that I usually keep in the background back there. But for the fireplace, here is how that's looking. It looks really cool so far. So what I want to do for the rock detail, as you can see the rocks on here, let's focus that. See, that's pretty easy to do, I think. I'm just going to cut these little rocks out, or not cut them out, but rip them out from an egg carton. So what I've done is, all right, whoops, just take an egg carton and rip it apart, and of course just make your little rock shapes. And I'm having a really hard time keeping that camera focused on here. I think it's trying to focus on them pictures. But I'm ripping the rocks from the egg carton, and then I'm just going to glue them on there. So that's pretty much what I'm going to sit here and do. I have seen people do this. It's been so long. It's probably been over a year since I've watched anybody make rocks out of egg cartons, but I can't remember if they wet them or if they just put them on there dry. I really don't remember, but that's just all I'm going to do pretty much, is just keep them dry, I guess. It's hard to get like a flat part out of this. I may wet some of them, but I'm even going to try to copy the shape of the rocks that's on there. I don't know if I really want to take that much time or not. And actually, this is an actual picture from the movie, and so is this one. But if you look, they don't even draw the rocks the same in every picture, as you can see from here to here. So I don't guess it really matters. But anyway, I'm going to get them tore out and glued on, and then I'll kind of paint each one of them individually so they each have their own little color. And then I'm just noticing you can even bend it around the edge so it looks like it's kind of going around like that. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to sit here and play with this for a little bit till I get it done, and then we'll paint it. All right, so that was a lot of fun, and I kind of rushed it, but it still looks good. I mean, it wasn't like it was hard to do anyway, but I got it done pretty quick. I don't even think it took 30 minutes. Uh, and of course, I've still got to paint it. I'm going to actually go over it with Mod Podge too, because when you tear these pieces, they've got these little fine hairs that sort of stick up, and I just think Mod Podging over that will tame all that down. But I have done one thing that I don't like, and if you notice in the picture, the grout line, it's like the grout line should be lighter than the rocks, and mine is kind of opposite. I've got the dark grout with the light colored rocks, so I'm gonna have to paint it all completely over again because I wasn't really thinking of that when I did it. I thought that my paint that I was using would be okay for the grout line, but that's really the darkest gray I had, so I'm gonna have to uh, reverse the colors. I mean, I could just make the rocks darker than that grout, but that grout's still too dark compared to this. So I'm gonna do that, and I think it will look a lot better. So I think I'm looking at the picture. What else do we have to do once that's painted? We just got to cut out a little piece to go down at the bottom for the hearth, which I've already done that, and I've got it painted. I just cut a piece of foam board out that will fit down here on the floor. And then of course I need to cut out a mantle to look like wood. I don't know what I'm going to use for that. I guess probably foam board, but I don't know. All right, so here's how it looks. I am so excited about this. I mean, it looks amazing. I mean, it looks like real little rocks on there. And of course, we've got Gaston over here. He's inspecting the work. I mean, of course, this is his tavern, so he's very hard to please. He's really picky, but I think it looks amazing so far. I can't wait for it to dry so I can install it into the room. Here's that little piece that I had cut. We're looking at it upside down, but that goes down there at the bottom. So I got that cut out, and of course, we're getting really close to my favorite part, which is where we kind of age everything. Once we get it in, I'm gonna kind of dirty it up, make it look like the fire, the soot has dirtied it up a little bit. So I'm just waiting on this to dry, and in the meantime, I think I'm gonna go outside and work a little bit. So let me leave this laying here, and I will be back. So real quick, before I glue my little fireplace in, I don't like how this is wanting to come together right here. So I've cut these pieces of foam board, and I'm going to shove them down in there like that to pry that back out and keep it out. So I'm going to glue those in just to keep it from squeezing in like it's wanting to do. So I'm going to put about 4 down through there, and it kind of, I don't even know if it needs to be glued in, but I'm going to put those in there like that, and then that'll keep it from squeezing in. All right, so for the final little bits, we've got the fireplace glued in place, and I'm going to put this little piece of poster board down that I painted black, and that's just to give it sort of a bottom for the fireplace. And then I'm going to take some black paint, and I'm going to go right around the edges. Right. This paint is really liquidy. I am not sure what made this so liquidy. It is more liquidy than water. I mean, it is super scary because I've dripped it before where it's so runny. I gotta get my light back in there. I just want to paint back in them corners real quick. And I even want to go, there we go. right up around here, because the little thing that I'm about to put here, I don't want to see a crack down in there and see down to that brown wood color. So I'm just making sure that all that's dark. And then right up here, all the way around. All right, that looks good enough. All right, I got some glue on there, and I'm just going to stick that in place. Kind of push it down in there. And then there's our little fireplace. And then there's a tiny little hole right there for my lights to come through later. But before I do that little decorative stuff, I just want to make sure I get the wood on the walls and the mantle put on here. And then I got to see how long this video is getting, because I feel like I've been recording for a really long time. So there's how that looks. Alright, so I guess I'm going to quit here for today, because I feel like I've got a lot done. It's actually all done except for like aging the walls and then hanging our decorations like the taxidermy and the picture. And then at some point I need to make that chair that he is sitting in. But let's just look at these pictures again. I cannot wait for you to see it. So here we go. Let's take a look. Boop. No, okay. Okay, there it is. Ah, I love it. Oh my gosh, it is just so good. And you know, this is real similar to when I did Hocus Pocus. I mean, I'm doing some of the same things that I did back then, but I'm kind of doing them better. Now the paint looks kind of shiny in places. That's where I've kind of went over it with Mod Podge. I'm going to do the whole thing, all the brown parts in Mod Podge. And then look up at the ceiling, how good that looks, and then how it's kind of shiny. I kind of like that. And then, I mean, just everything about it is so good. I'm so happy with how it's turned out. So in the next video, we will put the fire in there with the logs. We'll hang the taxidermy. We'll put the bear rug in there. The next big thing I got to do is make that chair. And then I think that's pretty much done. I mean, it's a pretty basic, simple room. There's really nothing going on in there other than what's hanging on the wall. And then the chair. But I don't know. I'd kind of like to hide a couple more little Easter eggs in this room. So anyways, I guess, again, that's all I've got for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. And something I just thought of. I've noticed I've not responded to a lot of comments. Sometimes I miss the comments. It's like they show up a week later for some reason, even though it says posted a week ago. I don't know why it does that, but if I've not responded to every comment, I'm very thankful for the comments and the likes and everything. I'm happy that people enjoy watching my videos. Oh my gosh, there we go. Hang on just 1 minute. All right, so back to what I was saying. I'm just thankful for everybody. And I guess I'll see y'all in the next video, and we'll finish up this room. And then I've got to finish the bell, the little bell with the rose. I finally found my little glass bell, so I was happy when I did that. But anyway, I'll see y'all in the next video.